Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's Zcash Arborist Call on June 12th. Today's agenda has core stack updates from the Zcash Foundation regarding Zebra, ECC regarding Zcash D, core libraries in Zale, Zingo Labs talking about Zano, and updates on the Zcash D ecosystem-wide deprecation project. We'll also have a section on research and implementation updates. We'll have somebody from Kedit if they're here. Normally they're in the other slot. And folks from Shielded Labs touching on the network sustainability mechanism and Crosslink. And then at the end, we'll have space for open announcements and discussion section. What are Arborist calls? Arborist calls are bi-weekly calls where Zcash protocol contributors convene to discuss upgrade timelines and process, protocol research and development efforts, design and implementation of new protocol features, and to identify blockers and any unresolved issues. The purpose of these calls are to make core Zcash development accessible for a wider set of participants and to provide more transparency for the Zcash community and beyond at large. Anyone interested in learning about the Zcash protocol development can register at zcasharborist.org to participate. And if you'd like to suggest a topic for discussion or present an in-depth agenda item relevant to the Zcash protocol, please email arboristcall@zfnd.org to request a slot. Other ways you can get involved in the Zcash community is you can check out Zcash community grants at zcashcommunitygrants.org. Jump in the Zcash R&D Discord and join us over at the Zcash Community Forum. And you can find all of these links by pointing your browser at zcasharborist.org. And we'll get it started with the first core stack update from ZF regarding Zebra.
Okay, so in Zebra, since the last Arborist call, we've merged several improvements to CI, including fixes, particularly around how PRs, like from forks and how the cached state is managed in CI. We've also merged a change into main that allows Zebra crates to be compiled with alternative versions of their dependencies. We've added an NU 6.1 variant to the network upgrade that's still unused in main. We've pinned the Lightwall D version in CI and have added a major DB format upgrade to support new fields in the get address balance RPC and the get block RPC. We've also added deserialization tests in Zebra RPC and are allowing local outbound connections on reg tests now, finally, that are defined in the config. We've added an add node RPC method and have merged an initial framework to test Zale RPC methods that handles the setup. We fixed an issue around the SIG-hasher context when validating transactions, where it was serializing Zebra's transaction type into the Libra Zcash type redundantly. So now it's only doing that once, and added support for configuring shielded addresses for mining, but are not yet generating shielded Coinbase. It's just support for the configuration. We've updated the get address balance RPC to add the received field. And finally, we have merged the Zcash script's new script trait into Zebra script. We also have new pull requests open for implementing the one-time lockbox disbursement mechanism for NU 6.1. It would be really nice to finalize the zips for that soon, by the way, and cleaning up Zebra RPC's API so that you can use the client types without requiring a dependency on Zebra state or any of the server code in Zebra RPC. And there's also a PR open that will likely be merged soon for adding value pools and block sizes to the get block RPC. And I think that's most of what we've done for the past couple of weeks in Zebra.
Thanks, Arya. Any questions? All right, we'll jump forward here. And next up, I believe, is Chris with an update from ECC.
Yep. So we also at DCC have implemented the changes required, the consensus changes required for NU 6.1 with the lockbox disbursement changes and the ability to do one-time disbursement from the lockbox in Zcash D. We have produced a release of all of the crates in the Libra Zcash stack. That was mostly in service of improving the Tor support in Zashi, but also pushing forward a bunch of pieces for Zale. We have new implementations of Zale RPC methods with Z get total balance, and there's another one that just recently merged, and otherwise have been just pushing forward a lot on Zale development. That I think is the high level summary. Yep, that's it. That's it for now. I will come back if I remember more things.
Great. Thank you, Chris. Any questions for Chris? All right, we'll jump forward again here. Next up, Zynga Labs. I'll just double check. I still do not see in the attendees. Okay, so we'll come back if anybody shows up. Any Zcash D deprecation updates from any of the folks here?
We're now in the sort of phases of sort of figuring out what remains for a Zale alpha release. This again will not be a completely usable solution for all wallet problems, but it will include Zcash D wallet migration and zsend many sync, transaction history, essentially all of the basic stuff, but biased toward the more modern APIs. There will still be a bunch that is left incomplete of the legacy Bitcoin derived APIs for this alpha release. We don't yet have a date for it, but hopefully by the end of the month, or by the next Arborist call, we will have firmed up when and what will be deployed with that release.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Any other updates or questions? Thoughts, comments, concerns? All right. I don't see anything in the chat either. And Alfredo, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question for Chris. Is some way to import a key in your mind for this alpha release?
You're muted, Chris.
So right now, all that is being supported immediately will be Zcash D wallet import, although it would be pretty trivial to, given Zcash D wallet import being implemented, to add transparent and legacy sapling key import. I just haven't thought about those two things yet, because the backend supports those at this point, but I haven't exposed those through RPC APIs.
Yeah, so I think in regards to the Python test framework, so one of the things pretty much all the tests do is so you mine blocks in regtest mode, and the funds go to certain address that should be included in the wallet. So yeah, we need kind of a way to add a key to a database somehow.
So in the test setup, is it not possible to run essentially the wallet account setup so that you're just using the wallet that you have that you've just initialized for the test? I'm pretty sure that's what
So
it
the
does.
wallet, I'm not
in-
sure how Zcash does it, but the wallet, you start inside it. I'm starting with an empty wallet. So one way would be using that import thing that you added. You import something that you already have into those tests. So that's an option.
oh, I so the fact that the tests in Zcash are just using sort of defaults is more of like a historical artifact than anything. Ideally, the way that I would approach this is I would make the first operation on the wallet to be to create an account and then grab
So
the key for
I
that account.
think I think the problem with that is that to sell it to a start, you already need a Zebra backend running, and uh, you add the miner address to the Zebra config, and yeah, it's kind of
Oh, I see. There's sort of a chicken and
yeah,
egg of
right, exactly.
being
So
able
my
to set the miner address.
exactly, yeah.
Um,
So
okay,
if
so
Salet allows
actually
us to, yeah,
wait a minute. What could be done there? The other way to approach this would be to, instead of running Zale start, would be to add a CLI command to add an account to the wallet. Um, then that could be used to set up the wallet, and without connecting to a light wallet server.
right,
And
that
then
would
when
be
you run,
perfect.
yeah, that strikes me as the better way to go about it.
Okay, okay, cool. Do you think we should open a ticket in Salet to do that or
Yeah,
something?
please do.
Okay, I will. Thank you, Chris.
Okay, thank you guys.
It could
And I'll
actually
just do one more
just
call.
be a flag or an argument to the wallet init as to whether or not it should create a default account.
Yeah, that will work as well.
Any other thoughts on this topic? All right, we will jump forward. I still don't see anybody from Cat. So on to Shielded Labs on the NSM.
All right, I can give this update. We have rebased the 3 PRs related to ZIP 233. There's one in LibRust Zcash, one in Zcash test vectors, and there's the Zebra PR, which ties it all together. Dyra Emma had made some comments on the LibRust Zcash PR, which I believe Marius addressed. And Marius also updated the ZIP 233 PR to reflect the latest LibRust Zcash PR changes. Mars had a question for Dyra Emma. Mars noticed that the digest header change in zip 233 LibRust Zcash PR breaks several zebra tests. Merkle root is valid, v5 with sapling spends, v4 with sapling spends, block test vectors, and binding signatures, because these process old blocks from testnet and mainnet. Should not the writing of the zip 233 amount in the header be conditioned, perhaps based on the transaction version? If anybody else has feedback on
You're
that,
muted,
that's
Chris.
welcome.
Yeah, absolutely. That should be dependent upon the transaction version. So if that's not currently the case, then that's a bug.
Okay, I will report that back to Mars. And yeah, that's about it. So kindly review at your earliest convenience. And then once that's reviewed and merged, hopefully we can go ahead with zip 234 and zip 235. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Any questions or thoughts on the NSM? Okay, next up, Crosslink.
All right. I'm giving the Crosslink update for Shielded Labs. we secretly had a goal to always do a demo at these, but sadly, we've just been doing more process and research exploration kinds of work. So I'm just giving an update. So the last Arborist at the end of May was when we wrapped up our second milestone, which implements basically some BFT stuff, but it doesn't modify anything related to Zcash proof of work and Zebra. And then there's a thing called Zcash mainnet shadowing mode, which uses that BFT stuff to agree on what those nodes see on mainnet, but it doesn't influence mainnet in any way. So we had like a workshop where some people showed up and joined the network. The network is really brittle. Like you have to basically have a configuration file with all of the peers' network connectivity info, and everyone has to have the same configuration. And if anything changes or any node disconnects, the network has a hard time surviving that. So that was fun and sort of got the idea across, but it is not like a robust, persistent thing yet. So at the beginning of our current milestone, now we're into milestone 3, we did some review of like the process itself of milestone 2, and if we want to tweak or improve things for milestone 3. And there was a few things around how we verify that we are sort of meeting the expectations of different stakeholders. So like one example was doing that workshop with the mainnet shadowing mode as like a validation that what we're making is useful or usable or interesting. And then besides that process review, we've started doing kind of some work on the design front and some work on testing, like software QA stuff. So on the design front, the goal for this milestone 3, is to implement changes to the proof of work consensus. So the end result should be a node that has like the basics of the crosslink consensus implemented. So there's a BFT side, a proof of work side, and the blocks are modified in both to refer to each other, to follow these crosslink rules. But there's no proof of stake anything. There's no delegation or bonds or anything. So the BFT side is just proof of authority, which currently is just a config file that everyone must have the same copy of. And so that milestone should demonstrate the actual like consensus mechanism and be good for reviewing that design and implementation and testing, security issues or other kinds of tests. So the research we've done towards that end so far has been ensuring that we know how to have something that we call, or that I call, objective validity, but some other people on the team say that's really confusing. But basically the idea is if you are given a snapshot of this hybrid chain, so you have both proof of work blocks and BFT blocks, like if you're given a snapshot on a disk from someone you don't want to rely on too much, can you run software that validates it's all internally consistent and it appears that consensus rules are being followed for the 2 sub-protocols? So that seems like an important goal for especially for the case of a new node joining the network. And this is something that proof of work proponents love, because Bitcoin is pretty strong on that. But I'm learning it's a little bit different in BFT land. So it seems like the out of the box thing that the Malachite framework gives us is if you join, so first of all, it's really common to have checkpoints in BFT networks. So you assume a new node already has the checkpoint and you join, and then if you have a reliable buddy node, they can hand you the BFT, like the sequence of BFT blocks, but then also kind of some out of band signatures that let you verify each transition is valid. But those signatures aren't necessarily in the chain by default. And so we've explored putting them in the chain, and there's some like nuances, but I think that's a pretty common thing BFT chains do. But we're still learning about it to make sure we're doing kind of the standard thing. But then the other piece of design is everyone wants to know, as Zuko says, WENPOS. They're constantly asking him, which really means like, how does staking work? You know, what's my yield? How can I delegate? How do I run a validator? Stuff like that. So even though that isn't a goal for the implementation of milestone 3, we're sort of pulling the design work forward on that to sort of get the early design out there for early feedback. And so we can tell users something, even though it will be very provisional, and we can start getting feedback on that. So the goal for milestone 4 is to include all of that. So that's the end of milestone 4 is basically like a working test net that has all the basic functionality, including you can run a finalizer, you can post stake, you can delegate, and then those finalizers run the BFT protocol and get the fees or penalties if they're not behaving well. And we're trying to front load the design of that during this milestone. So we've done a little bit of work on that. One is just asking, we have a few different groups of stakeholders, and if you're interested in being in any of these groups, let us know. But there's one group that's like people who do validation for other proof of stake networks, and what would they want to see or what do they expect to see? And we came up with like a FAQ answering common questions that we've gathered from interacting with that group. And we went through a process as a team of just, even though we don't have a specific design, trying to answer what we think the answers should be for the design floating around in our heads. So that's sort of an interesting step where we're already kind of incorporating user feedback in a way, like really early in the design process. And then the other thing is we've been talking to Informal Systems, which is the developer of Malachite, but they also work with teams, like they've worked with Starkware on some of their proof of stake stuff. So they're familiar with working with specific protocols, implementing BFT using their SDK. So it's been useful to chat with them. And then we also chatted with Christopher Goes from Anoma to sort of share, you know, our challenges and what we need to figure out for this design work. Yeah, so that's what we've done. The next steps on that design work are to just study Cosmos Hub, which is like the maybe the oldest or the very common sort of central Tendermint implementation that a lot of people understand well. But we also want to study Namada and Penumbra, partially because they're sort of in a similar space because they have privacy as a first class goal. But also I think their proof of stake functionality should be relatively clean and simple, although both of them have like some extra features we don't need. So we want something a little simpler. But the next step is to study that to inform our design and work on that design. Let's see, oh, sorry. Then the last piece was the testing stuff I mentioned. So we've been sort of exploring this approach to testing that where we want to have basically test vectors of a sequence of blocks, except it can be blocks for the two different sub-protocols, so BFT blocks or proof of work blocks, but they're in a specific linear sequence that gets played into our new like hybrid Zebra node prototype in like a test harness. And then the idea is we want to write tests that replay certain sequences of blocks and then validate that the node is in certain states. And so, like the example for the first sets of tests we want to write for that is it's just proof of work, and we just have proof of work rollbacks and verify that the node is doing what we expect. And then once that's working, we want to start adding in some of the BFT stuff as we're implementing this current milestone goal where the two protocols are interacting with each other. And part of the motivation for this kind of approach is that as long as the serialization of the test vectors isn't changing, we can sort of keep the test logic unchanged while implementing other functionality. So we're interested if that's still like not. I don't think we have any working tests yet, but we're getting close to the first basic tests. But that seems like something we should share with the Zebra team and see if they're, if it's useful or if there's other ways to do this. But again, one of our goals is to make sure we can sequence blocks on these two different protocols, which aren't the two protocols sort of run independently in terms of timing, except they're referring to each other as the only timing dependency. So we need a way to be able to test different time orders of the same sequences of the subprotocols. Yeah, so that's the goal there. And that's what we're up to so far. Any questions or feedback?
I'll check the chat. It looks like Zuko just posted when POS 3 times. But yeah, I guess I'll put one more call out there for any questions or comments regarding Crosslink.
Oh, I mean, as regards Win POS, we have a roadmap up. If you go to shieldedlabs.net, you can find the roadmap from there. I think it's in one of the drop-down menus. So we're still following that timeline.
Great. Thank you, Nate. Let me jump back over to slides here. Sorry. Okay. Any open announcements? Last call for that. Okay. And open discussion topics from anyone? G-Guy, did you want to chat about what you posted in the chat?
Mute button. Yeah, if anybody has any, I'll share it around again, that link. Have any feedback, we can discuss it offline if you wish. But just regarding CCG possibly funding key derivation, great. I'm a big supporter of passkeys, been one of the options. So let me know if that's something the ecosystem could utilize, Sashi probably specifically.
So there's something important here, which is that key derivation for Frost has still not been fully specified. And something like this would definitely need that specification. Specifically, we at ECC have a proposal up for Frost key derivation that will give us that will essentially give post-quantum resilience, such that if a quantum computer were to come along and the use of Diffie-Hellman based or discrete log based notes had to be shut off on the chain, that there would be a recovery path possible for those spent outputs. So any proposal along those lines should definitely think carefully about, well, it essentially needs to take that into account. And in general, we really need to find time to move forward on specifying that that piece of Frost key derivation, so that we don't end up in a situation where people have started using Frost derived keys, and we can't depend upon the so this is going to be relevant for, certainly relevant before NU7, but it really needs to be it needs to be done as soon as possible.
Okay, but generally speaking, this type of work might be utilized.
I mean, I need to look at the specific proposal, but
Okay,
yeah, maybe.
maybe. Okay, I can
need
at least
I need
find
to
out more.
understand exactly what's being proposed more. Just in the
That's fine.
process, yeah.
I can find out more info. That's all I'm trying to gauge if it's worth me spending some time. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, G-Guy. Chris, you got more thoughts? It looks like you're...
Oh, my hand was up for something different. And unfortunately, I'm not sure that any of the most relevant, well, maybe the most relevant folks aren't here yet, but I just wanted to call out to the organizations who are going to be the key holders for lockbox, the initial key holders for lockbox disbursement. We need you to go about producing a multi-sig P2SH key for testnet for testing the one-time lockbox disbursement that will be in NU 6.1. So we'll need to get that so that we can put it into the zip. And we're now, I think both Zebra and Zcash D are in a position where once we have those keys, we will be essentially ready to cut a testnet release that allows us to test the lockbox disbursements.
Great. Thank you, Chris. Should we, does that need to be posted somewhere post after this call,
I mean,
just as a reminder, or you'll...
It's an action item for essentially Josh, Jason, and whoever is responsible for that at the ZF.
Yeah, I'll discuss with those guys next week.
Thank you. G-Guy?
G-Guy?
Nope, just wanted to quickly call out anyone and everyone who has been assisting grantees to specify their milestones more clearly. We're kind of trying to get a tighter grip on those things, so thank you.
Thanks, G-Guy. Zuko has a question in the chat that I'll read out loud. It's likely for Ari or Alfredo. Does Zebra currently verify the Fly client bits in block headers? It turns out that Fly client could potentially be useful for crosslink.
Nowhere that I can think of. I want to say with 95% certainty that Zebra does not verify the flag client bits.
Okay, thank you, Arya. Let's do one last call for any other open discussion topics or anything else that anybody would like to bring up. Okay. Thank you all for being here and joining today's Arborist call. The next Arborist call is on June 26th at the earlier time slot of 1500 UTC. Thanks all.
Thanks.